development is fucking hard. Picture this, you want to make games, but you have no idea where to start. Maybe you even started making a game, but nothing is working. There are bugs everywhere, your game looks bad and it's just not fun to play. Maybe you even finished your game, but nobody wants to play it. How do you even stand out with so much competition? You potentially wasted years of your life, you're freaking out and decide to give up on the game dev dream. Sounds familiar? Unfortunately, this is the truth for most game developers in today's day and age. And if you are not careful, you might be one of them. I myself have been making games for over 5 years now, and there were many situations where I almost gave up. But there are solutions to all of this that I will give you in this video, especially at the end, because first we need to understand the problem. Why is game development so hard? When you're just starting out, everything can seem so easy. You have these huge ideas, big open world games with procedural generation and multiplayer. It's not uncommon to hear beginners say, I want to make a game like GTA 5, which is like a dumb 5-year-old saying he wants to be an astronaut. Sure, some will make it, but I mean, look at you. And see, that's the problem. Because behind every game, behind every feature you think is so easy to implement, is such a hidden complexity you wouldn't expect. Let me tell you a story. When I started out, I was just like every other beginner. I had this huge RPG game with insane boss fights, a huge world and a crazy story in mind. In the beginning, I was completely on fire. I thought I was living the game dev dream. But that motivation didn't last long, because after a month of working on this game, I had only created a simple movement and an inventory system that wasn't even working properly. I said to myself, maybe game development just isn't for you, and nearly gave up completely. So for God's sake, please keep your game simple. What's often mentioned in this context is the famous door problem. Imagine you want to implement the door into your game. Seems simple, right? Okay, are there other doors in your game? Can the player open all of them? How do you even differentiate between the interactable doors and the non-interactable? When can the player open doors? Can the doors be locked? How can the player unlock them? Will there be different types of doors? Do you need animations for all of them? And those are not even all the questions you must ask yourself. Let me tell you, you won't finish this gigantic game you have in your mind. And if you think that you're an exception and you can actually do it, trust me, we've all been there. I mean, there's a reason over 90% of indie games fail, and those are only the games that actually get finished and released. Make a simple game. Game dev is already hard enough. I mean, think about all the skills you need to have to create a game. You need to know programming, art or 3D modeling, music, sound design, game design, player psychology, storytelling, animations, level design, and those were only a few examples. That's why most game developers work in small teams or hire freelancers to help them out, because let's be honest, you probably can't wear all these hats perfectly. Over time, you will develop your strengths and weaknesses. Me personally, I'm a really good programmer, and while I'm okay at creating art, I have no clue about making music. That's why I will always turn to music libraries or pay other people to make it for me. But if you want to make everything on your own, fair enough. Just start off with a small game. I mean, if you even come this far. The thing is, most people get stuck in what's known as tutorial hell, a place where there is no time and an endless pain of watching YouTube videos, where you jump from one tutorial to the next one, never creating something on your own because you feel like there is just so much you don't know. But let me tell you a little secret, nobody knows what they're doing, so just start. Yes, there might be problems you can't solve or features you have no idea how to implement, and yes, you will watch a lot of YouTube videos and search for solutions on the internet, but that's exactly how you learn. And don't be scared. Your code will be a Frankensteinian creation from ChatGPT answers, YouTube tutorials, and Stack Overflow posts. It will be a total mess, but so was mine and so was everybody else. For the sake of this video, I looked at my old code and I sat there in my office chair completely speechless with my mouth wide open because I couldn't believe how bad of a programmer I was back then. And let's say you actually finish a game. The probably most important part, but the part a lot of game developers deeply hate, is still left. Marketing. It's simple. If nobody knows about your game, nobody will play your game, no matter how good it is. And if you don't care about how your game performs, then that's completely okay. But most people want their game to be a success, and therefore you need to market your game. And there are so many ways to go about it. Run ads for your game, ask YouTubers to review your game, or post about it on YouTube yourself, or Instagram, or Twitter. Twitter. I know it's X now, but it will forever be Twitter, no questions asked. But you have to do something, because truth is, everybody can make a game nowadays, and you are not only competing with them, but also with AAA studios that put millions of dollars and years of development into their games. And with all that competition, you need to convince the people that your game is worth spending their time on. The average gamer has more than enough games to play, so why should they buy and play your game? Therefore, you need to stand out, because the best marketing doesn't do shit if your game is just another copy of a popular hit. Your game needs something iconic, be it a unique mechanic like in Getting Over It, or a unique art style like in Cuphead. And don't get me wrong, of course you can take inspiration and look at what's working in the game industry. Look at Among Us. Games like Trouble in Terrorist Town or Mafia have been around for ages. They just put their own spin on it, and with the help of the pandemic, you have an unbelievably successful game. In fact, your game doesn't even have to be good. Dumb, goofy games tend to do really well on social media, but your game has to be unique, which can be really hard with so many games already existing. And here's the thing. If you want to live off of making games, you need to get all this right, because if not, then you spend years of your life developing a game that ends up being a complete failure. And all this pressure, all the stress really messes with your mental health. And that's one thing I personally think is not talked about enough in game dev. Your mentality, your mental health is so important, especially if you're making games on your own. You have to motivate yourself every day to work on your game, because no matter how much you love making games, there will be times where I just want to throw everything against a wall. But that's also part of the process. It's no secret that many game developers struggle with burnout, so take breaks if necessary. And many indie devs experience something called imposter syndrome, where they feel like imposters in the industry, doubt their abilities and talents, and don't think that they can actually make a successful game. And all of that makes creating a game even harder. So, what do we do now? Do we all just stop making games? Surely not. Game development is hard, but at the same time, it's never been easier to create games. There are so many free tools and opportunities to learn game dev. And recent success stories have shown that it is completely possible to create a successful game. Look at Leave the Company or Stardew Valley, or maybe you even have seen this frog sledding game on Instagram. It's such a simple game, but is going to be a huge success. Plus, you have an amazing community that is willing to help you with all your problems. I'm also trying to create a small community with this channel, and if you want to be part of it, then feel free to subscribe. Finally, let me give you some tips to make sure you become a successful game developer. First of all, take your time. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. Take your time to learn, also and especially on things you don't like. Trust me, they will become fun after a while. And learn to fail, because you will. But with every mistake, you learn something new. Second, don't spend years on your first game. I hate to break it to you, but your first game won't be successful. You probably won't even finish it. Take it from John Romero, one of the developers on Doom. He made over 90 games before he started working on Doom. And you don't even have to make full games. Just make prototypes and get people's opinions and reactions. If a lot of people like it, boom, that's the foundation for a successful game. Thirdly, don't be a perfectionist. Eventually, there comes a time when you need to release your game. The truth is, your game will never be perfect. You will always think of new features to add, but you can add them later. Your game is good enough, so press that release button. And even if there are some minor bugs, it's okay. Even the biggest games have bugs, and some of them make for the best mechanics. And lastly, enjoy the journey. Remember why you started making games, what you love about making games, and embrace every moment. Focus on the journey, not on the results. Because if you're only making games for the result, for the money, for the fame, then you won't do it long enough to become successful.